What followed after Judge Caprio finished outlining the horrific facts of the crash was a silence so heavy it seemed to press down on everyone in the courtroom. 15 full seconds where no one moved because every person in that room expected to hear the quiet rustle of political favors being activated. And when Senator Richard Hartley's voice finally came through the speaker, it was no longer the polished cadence of a career politician but the raw, weary tone of a father who had just realized the depth of his own failure, saying with unmistakable firmness that he was not calling to request leniency or to intervene in any way, prompting Madison to blurt out through tears that it was New Year's Eve and everyone drinks, that her father should tell the judge this was crazy, only to be silenced by the words she had likely never heard in her privileged life. "Madison, be quiet. For once be quiet and listen to someone other than yourself," a rebuke that rippled through the gallery with murmurs of approval as the shield of entitlement she had carried into that courtroom finally cracked. And as the senator continued, he laid bare his own credentials not as leverage but as moral context, explaining that for 12 years he had fought in the United States Senate for veterans' benefits, for VA funding, for medical care for men and women who sacrificed their bodies and minds for this country, and that the idea that his own daughter would drive drunk and high, nearly killing a 71-year-old Vietnam veteran, then threatened police officers with his name was not just shameful but a betrayal of everything he had stood for, leading Judge Caprio to ask the pivotal question of whether he was asking the court to show leniency because of his position, to which the senator replied with words that stunned even the most cynical observers, that not only did he not want leniency but that he wanted her treated exactly like any other defendant, even more harshly if necessary. Because she should know better, because she was raised in a household that honored veterans, had heard about sacrifice her entire life, and yet had laughed while a veteran lay bleeding in twisted metal because it was New Year's Eve, at which point Madison began sobbing in earnest and pleaded that she was his daughter and he was supposed to help her, only to hear the most devastating truth of all, that her parents had enabled her for 23 years, making phone calls, paying for lawyers, creating someone who believed her last name placed her above consequence, and that it ended now, she was on her own. And when Judge Caprio asked if the senator wished to address Arthur Pendleton, the man sitting in the gallery with broken ribs and a cane, the senator did not hesitate, telling him that his service mattered more than any Senate seat he would ever hold, that what Arthur had done for 15 years by volunteering every New Year's Eve for homeless veterans was the true measure of patriotism, that his daughter had destroyed Arthur's car and injured him while he was driving home from serving others, and that he was ashamed and promised she would face full accountability, prompting Arthur to respond with quiet dignity that he appreciated the words, that the senator need not apologize for his adult daughter's choices, but that he hoped she would learn from this. And hearing the senator thank him for his service and apologize for how she treated him as if he did not matter, before telling Judge Caprio that whatever sentence the court deemed appropriate he would support, including jail time, significant fines, community service, even writing a formal apology to the Providence Police Department for his daughter's despicable threats, the call ending with Madison left utterly exposed at the defense table, no rescue coming, only condemnation from the very man she had relied on to save her. And with that, Judge Caprio delivered a sentence that was as comprehensive as it was uncompromising: $15,000 for DUI causing serious bodily injury with cocaine in her system, a 2-year license suspension, mandatory intensive substance abuse treatment, 60 days in county jail for reckless driving at 50 miles per hour in a 30 zone, another $5,000 for running a red light, $1,000 for leaving the scene, $3,000 for resisting arrest, $1,000 for threatening Officer Morales and his team with her father's position, $5,000 for contempt of court for attempting to text her father during proceedings, totaling $33,000 in fines before even addressing restitution, then ordering her to pay Arthur Pendleton the full assessed value of his destroyed Ford Taurus, $12,500, plus $4,200 in uncovered medical expenses, followed by 400 hours of community service at veterans shelters and VA hospitals, formal letters of apology to Arthur, to every officer she threatened, and to her own father for abusing his office and requiring her to speak at 3 high schools and colleges about exactly what she did and what it cost her, bringing the financial impact to nearly $50,000, all while her attorney protested that 60 days in jail was excessive for a first offense, only to be cut down by Caprio's reminder that she drove drunk and high at 3 times the legal limit, nearly killed a 71-year-old Vietnam veteran. Driving home from volunteering, laughed about it, threatened officers 15 times with her father's Senate position, and tried to make it disappear by texting her father during court that 60 days was not excessive but merciful, and as she was taken into custody, the final illusion shattered when she looked at Arthur and whispered through sobs that she was sorry, to which he replied that he hoped she learned veterans are not props for political careers, they are human beings who served and sacrificed and deserve respect. Not to be hit by drunk senators' daughters who think New Year's Eve makes them invincible, Officer Morales standing to say that in 8 years on the force he had never been threatened with a parent's Senate position while a veteran lay trapped in a crushed vehicle, and that what the judge did that day mattered to every officer, the audio spreading across the nation within hours. The senator holding a press conference apologizing to Providence Police, increasing his legislative push for veteran services, establishing a scholarship in Arthur's name, and personally replacing Arthur's vehicle with a new truck so he could continue his volunteer work safely, while Madison began her 60 days in jail angry and indignant before gradually confronting her addiction in counseling, writing real apologies by the 6th week. Then completing 400 hours at the VA where she met veterans with missing limbs and haunted eyes, speaking at a college 3 months later and answering a student's question about regret by admitting she regretted laughing while Arthur was trapped and calling it just a New Year's accident, finally meeting Arthur again at the shelter 6 months later to repeat every wrong aloud, only to hear him tell her that he did not serve so senators' daughters could think themselves invincible but so everyone could be equal under the law, and 1 year later remaining sober, continuing to volunteer beyond her mandate as a veterans advocate, while her father publicly stated he did not regret holding her accountable. The courtroom fell into a suffocating silence after Judge Caprio finished describing how Madison Hartley had injured a 71-year-old Vietnam veteran, laughed while drinking champagne at the crash scene, and repeatedly threatened Officer Morales by invoking her father's Senate position, her only defense being that it was New Year's Eve so the rules should not apply. And for 15 agonizing seconds everyone waited for the familiar machinery of political power to grind into motion, until Senator Richard Hartley finally spoke on the speakerphone in a voice so changed it barely resembled the one heard in campaign ads, telling the judge with unmistakable clarity that he was not calling to request leniency or to seek any special treatment, prompting Madison to cry out that it was crazy and that everyone drinks on New Year's, only to be cut off by the sharpest words she had ever heard from him. Madison, be quiet. For once in your privileged life, be quiet and listen to someone other than yourself, sending a murmur of satisfaction through the gallery as the armor of entitlement cracked. The senator continuing that he had spent 12 years in the United States Senate fighting for veterans' benefits and VA funding, sitting on committees responsible for the care of men and women who sacrificed for the nation, and that his own daughter had driven drunk and high and nearly killed a Vietnam veteran while threatening police with his name, leading Judge Caprio to ask directly whether he wanted the court to show leniency because of his position, and shocking everyone when he replied that he wanted exactly the opposite, that she should be treated like any other defendant or even more harshly because she had been raised to honor veterans and yet had laughed about almost killing one because it was New Year's Eve, Madison breaking down in tears and pleading that he was her father and supposed to help her, only to hear him admit that he and her mother had enabled her for 23 years by making calls, paying lawyers, and creating someone who believed her last name placed her above consequences, and that this ended now, she was on her own, after which Judge Caprio invited him to address Arthur Pendleton, the injured veteran sitting in the gallery with a cane, and the senator told Arthur that his 15 years of volunteering every New Year's Eve for homeless veterans mattered more than any Senate seat he would ever hold, that his daughter had destroyed Arthur's car and injured him while he was driving home from serving others, that he was ashamed and promised full accountability, Arthur responding with dignity that he appreciated the words and hoped Madison would learn, the senator thanking him for his service and apologizing for how his daughter treated him as if he did not matter, before telling the judge he supported whatever sentence was appropriate, including jail time, fines, community service, and even sending a formal apology to Providence police for his daughter's threats, the call ending with Madison sitting utterly exposed as the rescue she expected turned into public condemnation from her own father, and Judge Caprio then delivering a sentence that left no doubt that New Year's Eve grants no immunity, imposing $15,000 for DUI causing serious bodily injury with cocaine in her system, a 2-year license suspension, mandatory intensive substance abuse treatment, 60 days in county jail for reckless driving at 50 in a 30, another $5,000 for running a red light, $1,000 for leaving the scene, $3,000 for resisting arrest, $1,000 for threatening officers with her father's position, $5,000 for contempt of court for texting her father during proceedings, totaling $33,000 in fines, then ordering restitution to Arthur for the $12,500 value of his destroyed Ford Taurus and $4,200 in uncovered medical bills, followed by 400 hours of community service at veterans shelters and VA hospitals, formal letters of apology to Arthur, the officers she threatened, and her own father, and mandatory speaking appearances at schools about exactly what she did and what it cost her, bringing the financial impact near $50,000, her attorney protesting that 60 days in jail was excessive for a first offense only to be told by Caprio that she had driven drunk and high at 3 times the legal limit, nearly killed a veteran driving home from volunteering, laughed about it, threatened officers 15 times with her father's name, and tried to make it disappear in court, that 60 days was not excessive but merciful, and as she was taken into custody the last illusion fell when she looked at Arthur and whispered that she was sorry, Arthur replying that he hoped she learned veterans are not props for political careers but human beings who served and deserve respect. Officer Morales standing to say that in 8 years he had never been threatened with a parent's Senate seat while a veteran lay trapped, and that what the judge did mattered to every officer, the audio going viral within hours, the senator holding a press conference apologizing to Providence PD, expanding his veterans legislation, establishing a scholarship in Arthur's name and replacing his vehicle, while Madison served 60 days in jail, moving from anger to genuine engagement in counseling, writing real apologies by 6 weeks, completing her 400 hours at the VA meeting veterans with missing limbs and haunted eyes, telling a college audience 3 months later that she regretted laughing while Arthur was trapped and calling it just a New Year's accident, meeting Arthur again 6 months later to admit every wrong and hearing him remind her he served so everyone could be equal under the law, and 1 year later remaining sober and volunteering beyond her mandate. As a veterans advocate, while her father said publicly that he did not regret holding her accountable, only that it took nearly killing a veteran for her to learn her last name does not make her special, and that is how Madison Hartley entered court believing New Year's Eve excused everything and left having learned that political power cannot buy immunity and justice is not seasonal.